what is happening in Cameroon now is an unfortunate situation, and it's actually an issue of poor decolonization. Is decolonization gone wrong?
Mm.
I'll just take you down memory lane. In 1919, after the League of Nations, Cameroon was handed out on the trusteeship to the one part to the English and one part to the French. In 1960, the French part gained independence. In 1961, the English part decided to become independent by joining Cameroon, the French speaking part. What happened during that time? What went wrong was they were given the English speaking section, which was already autonomous. It was one of the first autonomous states in Africa at that time, because it had its own government. It had gone through two elections where you actually had a changeover from ruling government to an opposition government. That 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 entity were not given the option to be independent on themselves. They were given two options: either to be independent by joining East Cameroon, or to be independent by joining Nigeria. There was movement for the third option, which was become independent as independent Southern Cameroon state. But that option was not given any credence by the United Nations. So that is where
Mm.
the United Nations was at fault. However, the English speaking part decided to join the French speaking part of Cameroon because they were all Cameroon under the Germans. When they decided to join on condition that it remained a federal state, in which the federal nature of the nation was never to be tampered with. A couple of years later, that was 1961, when the English part joined the French speaking part.
Right.
In 1972, the first president of Cameroon organized a referendum, which to most of Southern Cameroonians today was considered a sham referendum, that abolished that the federal nature of the state
Mm.
of Cameroon. There was already a lot of agitation in 1964. If you follow letters written by the late Dr. Bernard Fallon, indicating that the referendum, the federal nature of the country was not being respected. The independence that the Southern Cameroonians had enjoyed because British had indirect rule, French had direct rule. Because the British had indirect rule, the Southern Cameroonians were more or less managing themselves from 1954 all the way to 1961. When they became part of the Federal Republic of Cameroon, there was already a malaise at that time because everything was centralized down in the capital in Yaoundé, and the federal aspects were not being respected. When the federation was finally abolished in 1972 and it became the United Republic of Cameroon, there was already a problem. So that's the root cause of all these problems that we see today. This is something that has been boiling, has been brewing, and then got to this. In 1984, in 1982, a second president, who is the current president of Cameroon, took over, and he finally abolished the United Republic of Cameroon and renamed it the Republic of Cameroon. So in
Mm.
1960, you had the Republic of Cameroon, which was the French-speaking part. And in 1984, you are back to Republic of Cameroon now, which now has the English-speaking part and the French-speaking part. Now the English-speaking part thinks they've been absorbed completely into the French-speaking part because Cameroon has returned back to a name of that they had pre their own independence. So those are some of the things that made the English-speaking part think that they have been completely assimilated by the French-speaking part. And because the government is centralized,
Yeah.
every decision is taken by the central government. The only lone two presidents of the country are French-speaking, are from the French-speaking part. there's been all cause for the English speaking part to think that they've been completely assimilated and marginalized. So that
Uh,
is why the youths of the English speaking part, where I also come from, decided to say, okay, we either go back to uh, the federation that we had or complete independence. That was channeled through the lawyers and the teachers who began a strike in 2015, calling for for return to federation, calling for reforms in the educational system, because also the Anglo-Saxon system of education began to be eroded by a lot of there was a lot of integration, trying to get a national system that has both the French and the English system into one. There was a lot of resistance from the English-speaking part of Cameroon to get their system of education diluted, which was a just cause. But when all those demands were not heeded to, and the government did not manage the crisis well at that point in 2016, an armed conflict completely started. So Cameroon is it's a when you look at the history of Cameroon, Cameroon would be one of the best countries in Africa right now if things were properly run from day one. And we envy Canada because of the bicultural nature of Canada. We would have loved to emulate the way Canada is run and be like them. Unfortunately, that is not the sense. Most majority of the English speaking Cameroonians think or feel marginalized, and the perception is very palpable when you look into two governments, main ministers, the structures that manage the state of Cameroon. You see that very clearly, and so somehow the most there's been some decentralization currently, but that has not gone far enough to give back power and management to the grassroots, to the people. So that if, for example, you have a region where the region has a governor who is not from that region, who does not speak that language as first language.
right.
You see, the perception, whether
Yes.
whether it's correct or not, the perception is that you're being ruled by someone
Right.
who is not from your region. It means
Sure.
you still feel like you are you being colonized, because
Right.
that's the terminology that is used now, because you feel like you're being colonized. You call it the colonial government. So if things were to be done properly in Cameroon, things can come back to some state. Is unfortunately the power in place is doing they're giving, instead of attacking the root cause of the problem, they're trying to throw solutions that don't really match the aspirations of the people. So the problem has continued. It's really, for the last 3 years, it's been an armed conflict, and it's really costing lives, because
Wow.
yeah, there's a lot of people have moved. A lot of people have a lot of internally displaced persons now, and the crisis situation is really alarming. From a
What
very simple problem that could have been tackled and nipped at the bud when it all started, and get it done with. The political will uh, was not there. Maybe now it is there, but somehow you need to go back to the drawing board somehow, and get things started.
I really appreciate that. I mean, it's very, very interesting to see the what has changed. What is the government structure today? How is it done? Is that regional governors? I mean, how is it structured
The
under the
the the
president?
the governance structure, you have it's a parliament. It's both a parliamentary and executive, because the president is the chief executive of the country. There is no vice president, so the president is elected, and after the president, you have the speaker of the Senate. There's a Senate, the upper chamber, and then there is the lower chamber, which is the parliament, and both are elected. Now, there was a regional elections for a regional council. The regional council is supposed to choose a regional president who will be able to, who will be running running the affairs of the regional council, which is like a regional parliament, which is like the states in America where you have the state house, each house, each state has the state house. But in Cameroon, unfortunately, the regional president is not the person calling the shots for the region. There is still a governor that is an appointee of the central administration. So it's like having the states have a regional parliament, and then having the governor of the state appointed from the central administration, rather than a governor that is elected by, is an elected official by the people. So it is completely. When you look at the system, you don't get the sense that there is devolution of power completely to the various regions, because there is still that central, that arm of the government that stretches all the way to all the regions.
Right. And by having the governor over the president, is still that control from the central top.
That's correct.
Yeah. I'm just, again, there is armed conflict going on.
Correct. There is an armed conflict going on in the Anglophone areas where you have the freedom. There's the population. Some people have picked up arms and they're fighting for the independence. As I indicated in 2015, when the movement for restoration of federation or requesting for better treatment started, and things were not properly addressed, they escalated into an armed conflict, where now you have a lot of armed groups in the English-speaking area clamoring for independence, and then you have the government, the central government that is using its military to quell down that resist that uprising. So for the last 3 years, there's been an armed conflict going on, and it has really caused a lot of displacement and caused a lot of lives lost, both from the military and from the people of southern Cameroon. So it's really a sad situation, but that's why.
I got you. Thank you. That's one.
Thank you very much, Brother Louis. Honestly, you had the best explanation I ever got from this problem. I'll probably wish to have you more here all the time. You know, that was amazing. Thank you very much.
We proud of who we are, nigga.